Hola, buenos días, gracias por venir. Como ya veis, Gunter se va a presentar solo y como es una persona que habla de lo que sobra, y esto es de las cosas más interesantes que he escuchado, probablemente en 2 minutos voy a sobrar yo en esta charla. Así que Gunter nació en Bruselas, es belga. Amberes. Vale, hay mucha diferencia, ¿no?, entre Amberes y Bruselas. Ok, va. Es economista y es fundador del ZERI, el Zero Emissions Research Institute, y va a presentar, es una persona que ha escrito muchos libros, lleva muchos años investigando en cómo a partir de los brotes, digamos, de sostenibilidad, las ideas que parten de la técnica, cómo esto además es un sistema sostenible desde el punto de vista económico, que es por primera vez una persona empieza a pensar que no solo hay que ser sostenible, sino que además podemos ganar dinero con ello y trabajar de ello, ¿no? Por lo tanto, esta tarde va a presentar este libro en INSEAD. Ha tenido la enorme amabilidad de pasar por el IAAC. Es una conferencia extraña para los arquitectos, pero yo creo que es fundamental escuchar lo que este señor dice. Muchas gracias, la conferencia será en inglés. Gracias. Bienvenido.
Thank you. Actually, it feels nearly an insult to the Catalans that I do this in English here. But apparently there are some people who prefer to have in English than in Spanish. Catalan, I'm not able to do, but I do understand a little bit. The rule of the presentation is that there is no rule. Okay? You can interrupt me, you can ask me to stop, go back, you tell me to turn off the computer, whatever it is, there's no rule, just tell me. And seeing this room, I feel very bad on using a screen that is not working so well. So I'm going to do a few presentations, because I think you need to see a few things with your eyes, and then from there on, I'm just going to talk. And if I need anything, I'm going to go back to the computer. Is that okay? But first of all, I need to introduce you I need to ask you a very simple question. When you look at this picture, I want you to ask yourself, what is the most abundant source of energy on Earth freely available? Gravity. I mean, the most amazing thing is we all look at the sun, because why? Are we the sons and the daughters of hippies who were adoring the sun and who were worshipping the suns, or are we sons and daughters of the Aztecs who also did it? I mean, we have to kind of realize that the only force that works 24 hours a day, all year around, and there's never a gravity eclipse. Never. Gravity always works. No exception. And funny enough, we have been fascinated with the sun, but the sun only shines on half of the earth, half of the day. And still we think it's the most renewable source. Who told us that? Who kept us in the dark? Why did they do that? And then we don't ask the next question. You know the law of gravity. Of course, I've just reminded you. But every apple that subjects itself to the law of gravity first must defy the law of gravity. Because every apple must go up before it goes down. And how come we teach kids in school how the apple goes down and no one asks the question, how did the apple get up there in the first place? We don't. I mean, the most obvious things we don't ask. This is the age of the internet, right? You go on the internet and you check law of gravity, la ley de la gravedad, and you find 2 million websites explaining you. Then you ask the same Google search engine, how does the apple get up in the tree? 0 answer. What happened to the internet? So the internet is keeping us stupid, because it doesn't permit us to ask the question for which we don't have an answer. And my rule, I'm professor at the Faculty of Architecture in the Politecnico di Torino. And the only student who gets 20 on 20 for the exams is the one who asks me questions to which I don't have an answer. Because they're the smartest students, I want them. I want to be challenged as a professor. I want to be challenged to the point that I do not know the answer. Because then we're on the path of building a better world. Otherwise, we're just repeating like macaws what everyone already knows. And we have to get out of this world where we repeat what we know. If we only teach our children what we know, our children can only do as bad as we have done. We got to do much better. So we have to create this space of freedom. And to create that space of freedom, I created this.
The Simple Show explains how to exit nuclear energy once and for all. This is nuclear energy. Of course, emitting no CO2 sounds great, but it's risky. If a disaster happens, you have to write off the investment and the population is at risk. No one expected an earthquake and a tsunami, but we have learned that even the impossible happens. And if that happens, who pays? You. Solar and wind cannot supply all the energy we need. And without subsidies, it would not work today. Who pays these subsidies? You. The blue economy proposes that we work with what we have, turn problems into opportunities, be creative, and inspire entrepreneurs to make it happen. Whatever we propose must be good for your health and for the environment, and it has to be cheaper. For example, here's a water treatment plant. It costs money. And here is household waste. Sending it to the dump costs money and generates methane that damages our climate. If we dump leftover food into the wastewater, we generate energy, biogas, drinking water, fertilizer, and make money. Here is a pylon. It transports electricity, which costs money. A wind generator produces electricity, but you need to put it on towers, which are expensive and ugly. We simply put a vertical wind turbine inside the pylon. Now the pylon is stronger, generates electricity without new visual pollution, and we make money. Here is a solar panel. It works on both sides. So if optics concentrate and send the sunshine to the bottom too, we make 4 times more electricity with 3 times less material. The chamber, made from recycled plastic, gets hot. Now, solar also makes heating and hot water all at once and cheap. We place these panels on landfills. So land of no use now gives us energy and makes money. These are not only 3 good ideas, each one has been implemented. And these sources of electricity are cheap. So cheap that it is embarrassing that we kept on wasting taxpayers' money on subsidizing coal, oil, and nuclear for decades. If your country were only to use a small part of its infrastructure, then there will be more than enough renewables to replace all nuclear power, and everything can be made locally, generating jobs. Actually, it's possible to save so much money that there would be enough cash to pay for the closure of nuclear. How? If we sell this renewable and cheap electricity at the same price as before, and we eliminate all subsidies, then we make a lot of money without having to pay more. This cash will build consensus that nuclear has to go, and that makes everyone happy. Think of it. ZERI.org.
So that's basically what we stand for. The green economy in which I worked for so many years, in the end of the day, is expensive and relies on subsidies which have to be paid back. And I cannot be in favor of an economy where the rich can pay what is good and the poor cannot afford it. Sustainability has to be available to all, and the only way to approach it through innovation. We have to become much more innovative. And innovation means that we have to do not just 10 or 20% better. We have to do 100, 500 times better. Who drinks coffee? I'm not going to critique you. So, did you know when you're drinking coffee that 99.8% is wasted? And actually it rots away. So if you're a coffee drinker, you're in charge of climate change. Who's tea drinker? You're worse. You only use 0.1%. At least the coffee drinkers use 0.2%. But now we don't get into this mode of pointing fingers and saying you're bad and you're causing trouble in the world, and now the end of the world is coming close, and now you got to do something and pay up. No. Now what we're saying is that what we really want is to see that if we have this excess, which is called coffee grounds, la borra de café, what can we do with these coffee grounds? Well, we'll farm shiitake mushrooms on them. You know shiitake? You farm shiitake mushrooms on it, which we can now produce at half the cost and 3 times faster than the Chinese. Because the Chinese are cutting oak forests to farm shiitake, which takes about 6 to 8 weeks to 3 months to grow. But if you have caffeine, shiitake comes out in 2 weeks. That means you have better cash flow, better product, cheaper, faster. That is the world we need. We can't have this patience anymore to say that, oh, we have to have time. There's no time. Time has run only out. 2. Next time, everyone knows Fritjof Capra. Fritjof Capra is very important. Please share. But that systems thinking, that connected thinking, that seeing connections is so important and actually creates a lot of fun. But the most important building that I think is this one. You've seen this? That's in Zimbabwe. There you have a 10-story building with 48 chimneys on top of it, and every single room has individual air conditioning management. And you know how to use the thermostat of the room? Open and close the window. That's how difficult it gets. I mean, it works all the time. The beauty is this building has been around for more than a decade. But what is the beauty if you have a 10-story building and you don't need to put in those air ducts? What happens? You have 1 extra floor for free. Now we're talking finance. Because if I have the same volume, all architects are used to eliminate half a meter between 2 floors to put in all the air ducts. You eliminate all the air ducts, you have 1 extra floor. It means from an investment point of view that instead of having break-even at 55, you have break-even at 46% sales. That means your risk is lower. That means your interest rate is lower. That's how sustainability and innovative design gives you better financial results. In Barcelona, every single new building that goes up is planned with ducts, with air ducts. This morning we were in the building of Jean Nouvel. It's an air duct building. They have put in air ducts everywhere. Every window is controlled and closed. You can't open a window in that building. That building will be exploded. Will become a museum for how not to do it. It will show how megalomaniaism allows you to do things which are bad for your health and very expensive. We can't permit it anymore. There's a new age arriving where governments cannot permit to have so much waste. Human waste. Are we still okay? This is one of my favorite, you can't see it very well. Inside this box there are 150 different plants. I'm missing plants in this building. But I don't want plants to have plants. This is the filter. This is an air filter. We designed the building in such a way, and you see the windows are there on the back, but they're north facing, not south facing. But we designed it in such a way that the air going from the outside and the inside is always forced to go through this. And on those 150 different plants, we spray every 15 minutes a bit of mist. And in that way, we clean the air. You can have the dirtiest possible air on the outside. But by planning the airflow to go through this living filter, you have clean air inside all the time. Because what is one of the reasons we say we got to close off this building? There's too much noise outside. It's too dirty outside. We have to have clean air inside. Yes, and how do we do it? Active carbon? filters, and on these filters bacteria accumulate. Then we use chemicals to kill those bacteria, and then we breathe chemicals. Nice acidic chemistry to kill those bacteria. We will breathe now. What's the pH of a building? pH. Now don't tell me I'm an architect, I don't have to know about pH, that's for the chemists. Where did life emerge from? Ocean. What's the pH of the ocean? Highly alkaline, 8.2. Every student of mine in architecture has to learn how to design a building so that the inside air is always 8.2. Have you heard that before? Because what is my priority is not saving energy, my priority is the health of the people. If I'm going to be in a building for 8 to 10 hours a day, and if I hear that you're working early morning to late evening, then the pH of this room has to be highly alkaline. Because if the air is 8.2, you will be healthy naturally. And even if you have a cancer, then the cancer can't thrive because you're bringing in too much alkalinity into your body. Now that's how we have to design buildings in the future. That's how we design cities. We can't control all these cars, and we can't cut the cars off the street in one day to the other. But it doesn't mean that the air inside cannot be clean and healthy. And I insist, healthy. And because in the old economy we thought if it's very healthy for you, it's very expensive. That's how we associate it. We're brainwashed to think it's healthy, it's expensive. What's good for me, what's good for the environment is expensive. No. We can design it thanks to innovative processes so that whatever is healthy for me and great for the environment is cheap. And that's the switch we need to make. We need to be able to make that switch very rapidly. No, I'm not going to talk about this. Yeah, this is an interesting one. You can't see it very well, but this is not a solar heater, this is a luminescent heater. You see, we are again so fascinated by the sun, so everything is solar heating. Although the laws of physics tell us that you can get a lot of energy out of simple light. You know, light is energy. But everything is planned for solar. And we sometimes forget that solar energy was designed to go to the moon. Solar energy was originally not designed to supply electricity to cities. It's not the way it came from. But we've used it for that, and therefore it's not so efficient. But the beauty of it is that this is a solar water heater which only works with a thermal siphon, and this exists. The only difference is this is made in Latin America with a guarantee of 25 years. 25-year warranty of operation. The only solar heater in the world that now has the 38-year track record that it works minimum 25 years without any maintenance. And most of the people say, wow. No, don't do wow, that's the way it's supposed to be. Your heart, would you like to have maintenance on your heart every 3 years? No! We hope our heart functions for 80 years without maintenance. Why do we design production systems that need maintenance every 5 years, where warranties are expiring after 3 years, 5 years, 8 years? How many warranties do you have that go beyond 10 years? We don't do it. That means we design for failure. We don't design for success. And that's why we get into this trap of this consumer society where we keep on buying more stuff because the old stuff just doesn't do it well. But this is a design, fantastic, simple design. Yes, this was one of my favorite buildings that we did with Anders Nyquist. What is so interesting about this building? Can you tell me? What makes this building interesting? What are the two main colors? Yeah, black and white. Which animal is master in doing everything in black and white? The zebra. So this is actually a design inspired by the zebra. You know the story of the zebra, right? No? When you have black, what happens? It gets hot. When air is hot, what it does? Rise. When the air rises underneath, what's the pressure? Low. White, the opposite. If I have low pressure and high pressure, what happens? Wind. Self-regulating, guaranteed. This building we have proven together with Daiwa House, which is the largest building construction, home construction building company in the world. #1 in the world. We have proven with them, it's number 372 on the Fortune 500 International. We have proven with them that we do not need insulation. We thought we've been giving subsidies to people to put insulation in their homes. We think that every house needs insulation. No, because if you plan it right with black and white, you actually take the heat off the outside. This building is 5 degrees cooler in the summertime and 5 degrees warmer in the wintertime, just because we play with black and white. We create airflows, laws of physics, very predictable, always work, no exception. So we plan with black and white so that we can have a building where we change the inside temperature because we manage the outside surface. That's innovation. Now we're not so good as the zebra, because the zebra can change the temperature 9 degrees. But the zebra has been at it for about 50 million years. I mean, we've barely started, so we only do 5 degrees. But by being able to integrate simple concepts like black and white makes you actually do things very differently. But more important, cheaper. Much cheaper. And that is what we need to achieve. Questions? This was a very quick introduction. My base introduction is 9 days. Full course, 3 years.
Once you said that while you were doing the eco factory, there were things that you weren't aware of at that point. What do you think you're not aware of now?
Well, I think there are many things I have no clue about. Many things. But I think therefore what we need to do is to have a mentality of looking for connections. And connections, we have a methodological approach to it. We look at what are the basic needs and what I'm doing, how is what I'm doing connected to. I mean, give you a simple example. If I'm doing water treatment, I know that water treatment is related to health. I know that water treatment is related to agriculture. I know that water treatment requires a lot of energy. So I know that I have to start thinking about energy, health, water with agriculture, food. And so I need to map. I'm sure some of you do mind mapping. You know, you have to map things out. Unfortunately, most of our training, we're forced to focus and concentrate. And by focusing and concentrating, we don't look for the connections. And that is where we have to catch ourselves and say, let's look for the connections. But if a new connection comes up, adapt. Nothing is bad. See, I'm not so much, I was trained by the Jesuits, but I didn't become a Jesuit priest. What I mean to say with that is I don't live between heaven and hell. I'm much closer to the Buddhist world where everything can always go better. We believe that things can always go better. We don't have to feel that we have to condemn this as good and this condemn as bad. This is heaven, this is hell. No, forget about that. What we need to take is, this is what we knew, this is the best we could do, let's do better. And with a very important principle of Buddha who said, and check me out because even I make mistakes. I make mistakes. Me, Gunter. And so check me out, verify, double check. Not because I want to make mistakes, because we are human beings, we make mistakes. So let's check it out and find new connections.
thing that strikes me of your presentation is that you seem to be going to places to do projects on site, let's say. But from your approach, at least from what you say at the beginning, you seem to be advocating for let's look for what we can do on site with the resources we have there, which I think is very interesting as an approach. But every time that you show a project, you're not showing what is already happening there and what is the technology that is already there and how you are planning to use it.
So the question is, sorry.
Continue a little bit, because we have a professor here at the IAAC, we have a professor here at the IAAC, Victor Viña, who goes every year 6 months to India. And every time he comes back with a lot of observations about how Indians are actually doing technological solutions with very, very, very low-key means. And actually, every year he's kind of saying, listen, we are trying here to do blah, 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 but in India they are doing this with almost nothing. And it's very interesting, very nourishing, because in a way, by going to places, we can actually begin to think about different ways of how we do things here. But the way and I think, let's say in general, I would say I'm very sympathetic with your ideas, but the way you have presented it today seems to be more of you going to a country with specific solutions that you know, as opposed to going to a country and learning from what they already know. That's what's...
So that means I have to improve my presentation not to cause that impression with you, because that's not the way we do. My first observation is always, we discussed that yesterday, my first observation is, what do we have here? Not seen by the human being, seen in the ecosystem. I don't care what the human beings are doing because we're messing up all the time. My first observation is, who lives from the 5 kingdoms of nature in this space, and how have they resolved water, food, energy, etc. That's my priority. So I want to understand, and it's interesting that also in the north of Sweden you have termites, and they work different from the ones from Zimbabwe, not the same way. The mounts are very different, the material is very different. So our first observation is, how has the local biodiversity, looking at 5 different families, the animals, the plants, the fungi, the algae and the bacteria, how have they resolved the issues? And that's our base inspiration. Second step is, how do people think about it? I am not the one who comes with the solutions. My main role is to motivate people to find connections. See the connections. And someone from the outside, most of the time, can observe a connection faster than someone who's been there all the time and didn't see the connection. So my role is not the provider of the solutions. My role originally is to secure that I can start making the connections based on the ecosystem, not an individual species. I'm not a biomimicry fan. I don't believe in biomimicry. And if you want to know more about it tonight, I will talk about that. Because biomimicry looks at one species and one process and one technology and one chemical formula. No. We need to understand how is the ecosystem working. But what has happened after doing this for more than 20 years? I've been seeing many of those very predictable solutions always coming back. And of course then sometimes I say, whoop, here it is. Because black and white is used by many species all around the world. And so we start having a portfolio of solutions that seem to have worked in all different circumstances all the time. And that is how I came to the conclusion that we have to work with the laws of physics. Because the laws of physics are always the same, everywhere in the world. There's no exception. But the way it's put in practice is different. And that is why we need to get that insight on how the local systems work and how the local biodiversity. Only in a third phase, I look at what local culture has been doing and local tradition has been doing. Because unfortunately, in most conditions around the world, those who want to advance have already accepted too much from our Western habits. It's concrete and cement. And I know there is ram earth, and I know all of that. But it's not the mainstream. It's not. And so therefore I'm trying to not to go too fast to what local tradition is. I'm trying to really base it very deep. As deep ecologists, I try to base it in the ecosystem. Much more difficult, because you can't observe it, it's not so obvious. And that's why it's more deep.
Can I ask you another question? Your presentation, you normally give it to who? Let's say, today it's 2 architects. If you're planning to present to architects again, yes, my suggestion would be that you could improve the presentation. No, in relation, because what you just said, no, because in relation to what you just said, I think it's very interesting, but we would like to know more about the ecosystem, and it's very interesting, so it would be better to have more. But I'm curious, because this is such a broad concept, that how do you present differently to different disciplines? That's what I want to hear.
My presentations are totally different. When I talk to business students, I don't show them a picture of a building. I'm not showing any pictures, except for my company, the wooden factory. I don't show anything else. You know, I've been very privileged that I've been able to work with great minds from all around the world, but of all different walks of life. So yes, I have had a great privilege of knowing Sir Norman Foster. Yes, Shigeru Ban and I, we work together. Yes, I have been with Renzo Piano, who's fascinated with bamboo. Yes, I've been with all of those. Yes, I know Ricardo Bofill 30 years. Yes, but I'm not there to convince them. They're their own stars. What we are needing of is young people to think out of the box. Way beyond, and that's why I can't make a presentation that's fit for architects. At least I can take out of my big package some of the things that make you perhaps a bit uncomfortable or surprised. And if I have achieved you feeling a little bit uncomfortable or a little bit surprised, I've achieved what I could do in the 45 minutes that I have. Because if I really want to do it well, we need 9 days minimum. Minimum. Because otherwise, in my students in Italy, it's 3 weeks. 3 weeks, 120 hours a day in a row. And then workshops at night. That's the minimum, because otherwise how can we get started? And then I have to secure that they unlearn enough. See, whenever I come to a class, I have to secure that people unlearn the truths, the dogmas, the menus. And so I'm here only, the purpose of this presentation was only to be a teaser. I'm teasing you. And tonight when I'm with the MBA students, I'm doing another teaser. And of course I have to talk the language of discounted cash flow analysis, and I will tease them with it. And if I'm with an executives from Agua de Barcelona, it's another language again. And if I'm with a policymaker, it's another language. I'm a schizophrenic guy, you know. I mean, I change all the time. But most of the time when I go to bed, I still remember who I am. Most of the time. Yes?
Have you took into consideration what would be the effects of actually doing everything that you're, as Marta would say, advocating for? For example, if half of Colombia started making bamboo houses, what would happen with the bamboo and ecosystem? And if half of the world started coloring everything in black and white, what will happen of the materials and the surroundings that are being excavated for that, for example?
I hate standardization. I hate menu solutions. That means I don't want one solution then to be copied by everyone. Doesn't make sense. But bamboo is different. Because when the Spanish arrived in Colombia and they came to Medellin, they had bamboo forests. Not rainforests, bamboo forests. The Guadua angustifolia. And the first buildings that the Spaniards make with their tradition of bricks and mortar, they didn't have mortar really, of the bricks and the stones didn't work. Because the earth shakes too much. And so everything kept on falling down. So within about 25 years, the Spanish adopted the bamboo as the core building material. Thanks to the initiatives we've taken, about 40,000 hectares of land has been reconverted to bamboo forests. We have enough for another 20 million hectares. So up to about 20 million hectares, I'm fine. And these calculations we've made. We've looked at, for example, what does it happen when everyone in the world started to using their coffee waste to farm mushrooms. We would generate 50 million jobs, produce 11 million tons of shiitake mushrooms, and I think that would be a major contribution to health, because 11 million tons of shiitake gives you as much protein as all artificial fish farming in the world today. So, yes, I work with these numbers, but that's the numbers I use when I'm sitting with politicians. That's when you sit in the United Nations. You throw out these numbers. So we do. And who is we? We is about 3,000 people. We have a network of 3,000 people. And that's why we are rather quick in finding new things, innovations, changes, projects. And we run about 50 projects around the world. And Eduardo, who's here with me, he's, for example, engaged in getting the mushroom farming going in Spain. Because Spanish tend to drink a lot of coffee. There was another question.
Yeah, I have a question. Shigeru Ban was here about 2 months ago, and he said that one of the problems with architecture is that we're trained to become star architects. We're not trained to deal with the problems of the world at hand. And my question is, within your proposal of the blue economy, how do you see that we as educators and as students fit within this idea of being collaborators or enablers to improve society? So wherever everybody's going back to their countries, how can we empower these ideals?
Thank you. I mean, this is where Shigeru and we are very much on the same wavelength. I mean, Shigeru is one of the few star architects, actually. He became a star, not in his own country. He's not a prophet in his own country. Nemo profeta in su patria. Tadao Ando is star in Japan, but Shigeru is not. And so, but Shigeru has, first of all, a very strong intellectual freedom. Means he doesn't think he has a solution which he wants to repeat all the time. I mean, if you go into one Jean Nouvel building, you've seen them all. Always the same principles. Jean Nouvel has not had this regenerative capacity of thinking and designing, as for example Shigeru Ban. I'm not saying he's a bad architect. I'm saying his mind is more repetitive than, for example, Shigeru. And I think as an architect, the most important is to maintain that flexibility. I have done design projects together with Shigeru, something that never was implemented, on how to design the bridges of the future, a bridge. I mean, a bridge today is such a cut and paste project all around the world. There is nothing new in bridge designs coming out, nothing new. And I think this is one of the areas where I had the privilege of working together with Shigeru to think, what are now the bridges? I mean, is a bridge just to get cars across? Shouldn't be. So the most important is your flexibility, and flexibility includes adaptability to the local conditions. I mean, bamboo makes a lot of sense in the tropical belt. It doesn't really make sense in Spain. I'm not promoting bamboo buildings for you here. And then you say, why did you do that in Germany? Well, I did it in Germany because I needed that German building permit. Because everyone is so fascinated with German building permits. And you know that the German building permit is there. You have gone through the science solidly. The science is the most rigorous that you can get in any societal political system. And so therefore I needed that German yes. Today we're working on another project in Germany. We call it the Blue Economy building in Berlin. It will be the first building in the world that solely operates on DC. Direct current only. Of course, what's the problem? The German building code doesn't allow you to do DC. Everything has to be AC. So you have no TÜV approved DC systems. So I'm again going through the same process. I'm pushing the Germans to accept DC as a standard. And I know if the Germans accept it, I tell you the rest of the world will go quickly. And so sometimes we need to take things out of the context and put it there where we can leverage. Because in the end of the day, I want things to go faster. And sometimes faster means you have to go where it's best to go.
More questions? Thank you very much.